Welcome to the hottest real estate topics on the planet, keeping you up to date with all the creative ways to buy and sell real estate without bank qualifying, so anyone can build real income starting today. Here is another great show with Dealmaker Bill and Pete the Rookie.
Okay, here we are, flipping houses for rookies. How was that, Peter?
Flip those houses.
Did I wake you up? Hey, I figure I'm in serious competition with you this morning. You're in your music room, ready to play us some music. Huh?
What's that?
I said you're in your music room, ready to play us some serious music.
Yeah, I'm not plugged in though, so it's all acoustic.
Oh boy.
Yeah.
Okay, well, it's good to see you're in there anyways.
Yeah, I spend a little time in here.
Yeah?
Yeah.
That works.
I'm doing online virtual. Here we are. I learned a lot the last couple months.
Yeah, I'll bet. All of us have.
Oh yeah, you know we're all learning things and coming ahead. I was talking to the tax department. You know, that house we're tracking down, and I had to call 5 times. The poor lady is just completely swamped, but she remembered who I was. She remembered the house. Yeah, and we had a little quick conversation, acknowledge each other. I'll get back to you later. You know, but everyone's trying. You know.
Good.
I said, you learn anything from this? You hope for anything to come better? She says, I hope people pay their damn taxes online. Stop coming in the office. How about that?
There you go.
There's one. That's my 2 cents. Take it over, Bill.
Episode number 201. So before I tell you what the title is, Peter, I have to brag. We have to brag. You and I have to brag.
What do I do now? What do we do
Well,
now?
because I just wanted to make sure that I wasn't talking shit. So I went out the other day and I kind of looked around, and as far as I can tell, we are the only podcast that has made 200 shows, okay, without any advertising, right?
Yeah.
Without any I'm going to change your name here. I noticed your name is a little bit different.
What am I Poontang again today?
Yeah.
Damn.
So we're the only podcast that's out there that I know of that we have no sponsors, okay? I fully sponsor the whole thing. We have no guest speakers unless they're one of my coaching clients or somebody telling us a success story, which we've only had, like 3 or 4 of those, right?
And a lawyer or 2 here and there for good luck.
Yeah, good luck, okay. But the point that I'm trying to make is that there's 200 episodes, because we're on 201. There's 200 episodes of podcasts strictly and only on creative real estate. A lot about lease options, a lot about getting the deed or subject to, a lot about owner financing, a ton about finding leads, deal hunting, making offers. I mean, technically, somebody could listen to all 200 episodes, which, by the way, is well over 200 hours. It's probably 250 hours worth of training for free. Because, you know, in the beginning, we kind of like were goofing around and doing whatever, but, you know, we got so many support tickets that after a while, I realized that we needed to like stop goofing around and start like doing what we're supposed to be doing while we're here, right? So,
yeah.
Anyways, I just because we're at episode 201, right?
Yeah.
We can legitimately say there's 200 episodes. That's years worth of work that you and I have done. Years.
Divide that by 50. Even taking 2 weeks off. Divide that by 50.
That's 4 years worth of content. That's 4 years of me sponsoring it. 4 years of our listeners not hearing advertisements. That's 4 years of our listeners actually focused on creative real estate, which, by the way, creative real estate to me means low down payments, not using your own money, low risk, no risk, and actually getting the sellers to fund our deals. Or people, private lenders that have IRAs or credit lines or credit cards or money markets and all that kind of stuff to fund our deals at low rates.
Yeah, but there's one more thing, Bill.
Yep,
That's helping sellers who can't sell their house
that's right.
to buyers who can't buy a house. So in spite of all the stuff that we do for ourselves and our listeners and us as investors, the real point is that you can help sellers sell a house they can't sell and a buyer buy a house he can't buy.
Exactly.
That's big.
Exactly. So anyways, I just wanted to take the first couple minutes of our episode here and just kind of pat ourselves on the back. Not that I'm into that, because anybody that knows me knows I'm not into pat myself on the back. But credit is due where credit is due. I mean,
Yeah.
we've got 4 years of every Thursday either meeting or getting together, regardless whether there's a pandemic or a hurricane or electricity problem, whatever. We've always managed to, through vacations and seminars we go to, and we've always managed to air our show and make sure that our listeners get a ton of content. And today's no different.
Right. You know what I think is extremely important about this that you might just take for granted because you do it, and the listener might think, well, gee, they're talking about the same thing all the time? Back up. The normal thing that happens is you go to a RIA or some meetings or a seminar and you learn about X. And then a month later, a week later, 2 months later, you go to another seminar, workshop, or podcast or something, you learn about Y. Then you learn about Z. Then you learn about Q, and then M, and then O, and then P, because you did that.
Right.
And it's more confusing than anything because you can't get your handle on anything except should I do this, should I do that? Maybe that would be better, lease option. I want to do wholesale, and you don't get anything done. It's far more important to do what you're doing with me sitting here and doing my thing of like focusing on something people can do. It's not terribly hard, but it doesn't fall in your lap either. It's not like you wake up in the morning knowing how to do this. You got to learn it. And
Right.
if you focus on one thing, you might get something straight and get something done, and that's important.
Right. I completely agree. All right, good. So let's carry on. Episode 201. How to make a breakthrough with real estate investing by picking the losers.
Yeah. Wait a minute. Say that again.
How to make a breakthrough with real estate investing by picking the losers.
Okay, I thought I heard you say that. Carry on.
All right.
Where's he
So-
going with this?
A question I get quite often is, how do you attract those high quality, creative deals anyways? As if there's a secret way I do this, or some undisclosed button under my desk that I push and the ceiling above me opens up and pours a bucket full of hot leads onto my desk begging to talk to me.
Yeah, I've been to your office. I don't see that either.
If you truly want to build a creative, or if you truly want to build a real estate investing business, or minimally want constant income or consistent income, you will need to know what we plan to cover on this one very unique podcast. Okay, and I know it's unique because all the podcasts recently are unique, and it's usually because I'm taking something I'm dealing with in my coaching group, or something in my life, or somebody I'm helping with, and I focus it. And in my mind, I actually you know how when you write a book in the beginning, you dedicate the book to somebody?
Yeah.
Well, in my mind, I dedicate these podcasts to somebody. That's what I'm doing in my mind when I build these podcasts these days. Okay?
Cool.
If you don't get what we're about to cover, it could quite honestly destroy your business or career in real estate investing. How do I know this? Well, it's from the list of ex-coaching clients I recently reviewed, and the many meetup attendees that were hot to trot when they were in the meetup, right? Only to unsubscribe off my email list. So many others actually compliment me on. Because email list, I give a lot of information away. I give discounts and free stuff. I do a lot of stuff there, right? on all this content, right?
Yeah.
Today, I'm going to cover silly, simple things you should know about real estate investing so you don't keel over dead as an investor. Keel over dead as an investor. So here is...
He's not exaggerating, folks.
No,
We've
I'm
seen
not.
it. There's several. They keel over, they die,
Yeah.
we make a phone call, the ambulance comes, and we, move on, right?
Yeah. So here's your oxygen mask so we can get started.
Do you wake up thinking of this stuff?
Oh my God. It's the funniest thing because so often I will think on Sunday or Monday, oh, what am I going to do the podcast about? I do the same thing with my emails.
Yeah.
I'll be like, I got to write an email. I'll wake up in the morning and I'll be like, I got to write an email. What am I going to write an email about? And I come up with some ideas, and then if I don't write them down, I forget them. And I
Show people the notebook in your pocket.
Yeah, a notebook in my pocket. There it is. I write everything down.
I knew it.
So I'll sit at my desk, and all of a sudden I'll just kind of and it's funny because lately I'm a little bit, well, it's easy now. It wasn't before, but I even though there's nobody in the house except me, I'll shut the door. I turn the heat on. You know me with the heat. I'll turn the heat on 90 degrees, right, in my office. I'll turn my music on, and I just get in my zone, and it just happens. It's the weirdest thing in the world. It just happens. And then I start to write. I'll start with a headline, and then I'll be like, oh, and I don't even think, what can I write? And I just start writing, and it just comes out. I don't even type it. I write it.
I seen that. So let me. So folks, take a note. Make the room warm and turn on some smooth jazz for inspiration.
Well, yeah.
Okay.
Or you could go to Florida and you can go outside and sit in the 90-degree weather and smoke a cigar. That works too.
Yeah.
All right, good. So here we go. Enough goofing off for today. So, you ready?
Yeah.
Understanding your seller's qualification and motivation trumps any other training or skill in real estate investing.
Okay, you said two things: his motivation and his what?
So understanding your seller's qualifications,
Right,
and motivation trumps, in other words, trumps not Donald Trump, but trumps, in other words, it is senior everything, overrides everything, right? Any other training or skill in real estate investing.
Yep.
Now, Peter, I know that you know this, so I can talk to you, and if my listeners don't believe us, then oh well. But
We had a nice conversation.
Yeah, you know that you listen to the coaching calls, right? Because technically you're like the first coaching client, right? And technically this round, I mean, I did it back in the early 2000s too, but this round with Flipping Houses for Rookies, you were like the rookie. You are the rookie. Well, you're not anymore, but you are the rookie, right? Mm-hmm. You listen to a lot of the calls.
Yeah.
By far, this is so obvious to me now. It wasn't before, but it's so obvious to me now that the coaching clients that bring deals every week to the coaching call, and the coaching clients that are doing deals and crawl up my butt and are like constantly gnawing at me, which is a good thing, okay, are the ones that have heard or seen or felt or touched a motivated seller. The ones that have not are the ones that fall by the wayside and they don't always make it. And believe me, I have a girl that I just signed on, I don't know, like less than 5 days ago, and she's already got a motivated seller.
Really? Already?
I have. It's somebody she knows. I have coaching clients that have been with me for a year and have not heard a motivated seller.
But how can that be a year later? What are they doing?
Not enough calls. Not enough. They're not talking to enough people.
You know, as a matter of fact, we have a fellow we're doing some multifamily hunting with. You know, our new connection, and we're talking about a particular property we're looking at, and he's going back and forth, this, that, and we said to each other, well, you know what? The guy's just not motivated. So we just got to hang in there, try to do something with it. But He's not motivated. He's not. Oh my God.
Well, hang on a second, because I don't know that I 100% agree with you.
I wish
They're
you wouldn't,
al-
because I'd like him to be motivated.
They're
Go ahead.
always motivated. They're always motivated, which we're going to cover today. But what are they motivated for?
For yeah.
Are they motivated to get their deal and only their deal, or are they motivated for some other reason? Right.
Are they motivated to move the property or to get the money?
Yeah. So we're going to talk about that in a little while. So
Yeah.
all right. So understanding your seller's qualifications and motivation trumps any other training or skill in real estate investing. End of story. We can end the podcast right now, and we've fulfilled our agreement with our listeners. But I got so much more. So let me explain.
Yeah.
Qualification, right? I've seen in way too many deals a student negotiate with what they think is the seller, right? To only find out way too far in the deal, sometimes hours, days, sometimes weeks later, the person they're talking to is not signing the deed. They're working for somebody else. They're the owner's agent. And I don't mean real estate agent. I mean it's the brother or the sister or the son or the daughter or the cousin, somebody that supposedly has some savvy that the owner wants to utilize to get him or her a better deal.
Right.
That's just one example. Here's another quick example I didn't write down. So you have a seller that has a $100,000 piece of property, right? And they owe 80 grand, right? You offer them 60. Are they qualified? Right? Well, the only way they're going to be qualified is if they bring $20,000 to the closing, right? Because they owe 80
Right.
and you're offering 60. So are they qualified?
Yeah. So when you're talking qualified, is it always the money? What are the criteria? His own financing, other things like that?
Yeah, well, there's a lot of factors. I mean, the house has to qualify, the seller has to qualify. So in other words, all the moons and stars will align so that this deal could be done.
Yeah, so he has to be able to do, like if you think you could buy a house with one of your 7 deals or 2 of the 3 of the deals, you can make this offer, this offer, this offer. He has to be able to do one of them.
Right.
Okay.
Right. Yeah, physically do it.
Yeah.
Right? Actually, I just had this crazy thought, right? So, qualifications is like the objective part of the deal. Motivation is like the subjective part of the deal. So
Right.
Objective means like the physical universe and everything out in the environment. Subjective is what's in your mind.
Exactly. Like, what's he
Right.
thinking in his head? What's he want to do? What does he don't want to do? Not willing to do. I sold a house once and I'll never do, but all that stuff up here.
Right.
That's cool.
Yeah.
That's
so
cool.
so like qualification is all I'm going to use it again. So all the qualification is the subjective, the objective part of the deal. Mm-hmm. And motivation is the subjective part of the deal. Okay? So let's do so what happens with this qualification, so I'm talking about the person that they're talking to is not signing the deed, right? That's in my first example. They're technically the puppet for the seller, right? Which opens the door to your offer getting distorted with the puppet's opinions, right? And not facts the seller weeds out or decides to take out of the deal during the negotiation.
Yeah.
Right? Very, very dangerous. And I'm going to talk about this more later. So this is very, very dangerous. Okay?
But I have a question, though. We're not supposed to be talking to agents. We're supposed to
I'm
be
not
talking
talking about an
How does that
agent.
happen?
I'm not talking about an agent.
I don't mean agents. I mean, we're supposed to be talking to the seller, the owner of the property.
Which is
How does that
why-
happen? We're supposed to weed that out.
Which is why on the prospect suspect form or the for sale by owner, we ask whose name is on the deed.
Yeah. So we shouldn't be doing that at all. So don't be fooled and try not to get into that situation in the first place, right?
If you ask whose name is on the deed, you will do. That's the perfect question to say, oh, okay. So if I'm talking to Peter Cocola about selling Peter Cocola's house, and I say whose name is on the deed, and you say Mary Cocola, I'm like, well, who's Mary Cocola? Well, that's my mother.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. So what's the relationship with you and your mother?
Sure.
Oh, well, she's my mother. No. With this house, I mean, like, are you power of attorney? Is she in a home? Is she, you have to start right away. There's like this little odd fact that you have to clarify, because otherwise you can't proceed. That's the qualification. Like, okay, so how are we going to do this closing?
Yeah, I mean, it's legal stuff. It's not opinions. It's not convincing people. It's just facts,
And
I
quite
had to
frankly,
do things with my house, with my real mother, so things are qualified. So,
right.
Get the house.
So
quit
quite
claim
frankly,
to me
do
so
I
can
want to
sell,
spend
those tough things, those kind of things? You have to.
Do I want to spend time with you? Do I want to spend an hour? Do I want to convince you? Do I want to? Why?
Yeah.
Right. Which then brings us to motivation. Okay. So motivation, to be honest, I like the word intention better than motivation.
Yeah, when you originally said the motivation early on, qualification motive, I'm thinking being motivated, but you're not talking about being motivated. You're talking, what is the motivation? Like, what is the reason they're selling?
Right.
What are they trying to do? Are they trying to make a lot of money? Are they trying to get rid of the house as fast as they can?
Right.
It's like, why are they doing it? Not if
Yeah.
they're motivated or not. It's why, right?
Right.
It's more like
right.
that.
Totally. Yeah. So what's the seller's inner and sometimes held very secretly true intention for doing the deal? Right?
Yep.
What is pushing him or pulling him that keeps it all moving?
Sure.
Right? Now, when I say sometimes held secretly, here's what happens. As soon as you say, I'm an investor, they right away feel like they got to go on defense to get more money.
Sure.
Right? So it's a known fact that most people will not reveal their true intentions until they know they've gotten all the money.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Or until they've gotten what they want. And it's usually money.
Yeah, look, when you're playing a game, say you're playing poker,
Right.
you don't want anybody to know what your hand is.
Right. Right. So sometimes it's secret, right? So what I like to pride myself on, right, is I was just dumb enough, and I mean that, just dumb enough to sit in thousands and thousands of houses and making offers. And when you do that, and I don't know how many people listening to me have had that opportunity, but when you talk to enough people, what is it? The oil floats on the water. What is that saying? Like the oil kind of like
rises to the surface?
Yeah, rises to the surface. That's what I'm trying to say. So it's like when I give the listeners here these little sentences, like what would have to happen for me to buy your house today? It's not I'm a dick about it, because that question always gives the right answer, especially if they're trying to like secretly hold back their intention.
It cuts
It's
through
kind of
that
like
then.
it's like a laser that cuts right through that.
So this isn't something that's subjective for you, like you wake up in the morning and you go, oh, that would be nice. This is objective because you've done it so many times, for real, tested it and got results from. So you're not making that up like, oh, this is a nice idea, right?
Yeah, I had a lot of sayings, a lot of things that we did prior to figuring that out. It's like you ask the exact question and almost inevitably you will always get the same answer. Not the same answer like, this is what I want, but they will give you the answer you want. Like they'll give you the situation they're in that they're trying to handle. Oh, I want to pay my daughter's college tuition. Or, oh, I want to move to Florida. Oh, I want to go to Mars. Whatever it is that they want, they'll tell you that. right?
Well, it's hard to help somebody until you know what they want.
Right, and we talk about that all the time. So, wouldn't it so moving on? Wouldn't it make sense that you knew that if you knew what this was, this little thing that they're hiding, right, could speed up or slow down the deal,
Oh, yeah.
right?
Or blow it entirely.
Yeah,
Or close it.
yeah, right. So what I'd like to do is because I couldn't resist this when it floated through my mind, right? So here's the thing that I would like to do. I'd like to blow a myth right now. Because the myth, one of the biggest myths in real estate investing or in this arena, until you do what I've done and talk to enough sellers, is that most of your sellers are all about money. Now, I'm not going to mention names, but I have a couple coaching clients that are pretty sharp people. They have money a little bit, not tons of money, but they have that. They're not living paycheck to paycheck, even though they have a paycheck every week, and even though they drive, but they have bucks in the bank because they tell me, right, after I get to know them. It's kind of funny because I recognize that when somebody is money motivated in their life, like it's all about money, 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 money. How can I save money? How can I make money? How can I keep the difference? How much do I have in the bank account? And they're like, they're the coaching clients that will go off and find other software for 3 cents cheaper.
Oh.
I mean, I'm being facetious, but you get what I'm saying. They're the ones that go off and figure out all this other stuff, right? So here's what I noticed. These cats think that the seller only wants money. They don't have the ability to view the deal from another angle or another position.
Yeah.
Because they're all about money. They're all about, and you were the one that actually some weeks ago, I don't even know what you said to me, but you bring up you bring up the fact that, because I think you're about this. I mean, this is part of what because you're in real estate to make money.
Right, but it's not just for the money. I have things I want to do with it that's far, far more important. So it's not just to have a pile of money, so my yippee. I got real things I want to do with it. And I think that's more like you too, anyways. But that's what I'm really trying to do.
Right. So if you make it just about the money, then what happens is you tend to gravitate your offers to just about the money.
Yeah.
See, I get what you're saying. You're like, you're telling me that I do real estate because of what I can do with the money once I get it. See, I don't think that at all. I do real estate because I make a good living at it, and it supports my lifestyle. That's what I want, is my lifestyle. So I agree with you there. But it way more, my real estate doesn't give me a lifestyle. It gives me a lifestyle plus. Right? Because what I do, I could get a job and make enough money to live.
Yeah.
Okay. So the point that I'm trying to make is I like to help people. That's my button. So I get my kicks by every time I call someone, I'm like, I wonder how I'm going to help them.
Well, that's the right attitude.
Yeah. And that's what I'm saying. So that's what I'm trying to make the point here. I'm off script, but I'm trying to make the point here is that I have trouble with the money motivated guys to get them to think that way. So when they call them up and make their offers, it's all about the money. It's like they give them a seminar on all the different types of deal structures they can do. Well, I could do this or I could do that. And it's all about the money.
Yeah.
And yes, there are some sellers like that. But I would go on the limb to say probably 80% or more are not. Actually, I will also go on the limb, and then we'll move on. I will also go on the limb with telling you that a couple things that I should not say in public, but you know me. First of all, you would be blown away. Blown away. I mean, I've been in a lot of houses, Pete. You know that.
Oh, hell
Okay?
yeah.
I've been in a lot of houses. You would be blown away by how much people are slobs in the way they live. You'd be blown away. Now, you've been in enough houses with me to notice that.
Yep.
It's amazing how people live. You know, and I'm not talking about just like clutter. I'm talking about filth. You know, I'm talking about like laundry rooms and, you know, and you'd be blown away at how people live. The second thing is, which is actually really the first thing, you would be blown away when you realized how illiterate most people are with money. And how they handle their money and how they handle their mortgages and how they handle their problems. It is absolutely astonishing how, I don't want to say dumb, but how thwarted these people are, or how they don't pay attention to it. They ignore it.
Yeah.
Until it's pushing on them so hard that they have to do something.
Yeah, I learned a really bad lesson. You were with me. I was trying to help a lady buy a house, rent to own, lease option, you know, make a deposit, get qualified, buy the house. And I realized why she was in such trouble. She missed 2 appointments to give me the money to show up, to do the deal. After we figured it out, didn't even show up, didn't answer the door. Like, well, no wonder you're in so much trouble.
Right.
You can't even show up when you say you're going to show up to get a house. It's ready. It's in your hands. It's like this. You want it? And she couldn't show up or open the door when you show up at 9 o'clock on Tuesday. Hello. Remember that?
Yeah.
No wonder they're in trouble. So I wasn't disappointed. I just realized that's what's going on. And that's why they're in trouble. That's why they're going to stay in trouble. Don't buy a house, just rent.
Okay, so let's break this down to something simple that people can understand instead of our stories. Okay, so here's what I found. Sellers, I believe, have one of 2 viewpoints. Right? So if you and I, now just picture this because it's the only way I can describe this. So you know how you watch the TV shows and the you know, cops and robbers, you know, like any one of the, I don't even know because I don't watch them, but just pick a TV show and somehow, somewhere they end up in an interrogation room.
Right.
Right? So you have criminal on one side, cop on the other side, table in the middle, padded walls. Okay?
2-way mirror.
Right. So what I'm saying is that if you put a bottle of water in the middle of that table, Pete just picked up a bottle of water. If you put a bottle of water in the middle of that table, and it has a label on it, right, that wraps around the bottle, right? Yeah. So the criminal's going to have he's going to see one thing. The cop's going to see another thing. Can we agree that they're both going to see a bottle of water, but they're going to see it from a different angle?
Sure.
Okay? So it's the same bottle of water, it's just where are you seeing it from?
Right.
That's a viewpoint. Right? That's a point of a view where you're seeing it from. Right?
Right.
So most investors don't get this. So it's like you have a deal and you have the seller's way he sees it, and then you have the investor's way that he sees it, and they're both different. Okay, you with me?
That's a good analogy.
They're both different, right?
Yeah.
Okay, good. So the seller is going to have one of 2 viewpoints. So we'll say he's the criminal in the cop criminal thing. Not that he's a criminal, but he's looking at it from that point of view. Okay?
Yeah, he's being questioned.
Here's what I've noticed. Yeah. Here's what I've noticed. They see one of 2 things right off the bat until you start working with them and getting to shift their ideas. Like on the bottle of water, do you see the blue letter? Oh yeah, I didn't notice that before. You know, do you see the emblem? Oh yeah, I didn't notice that either. Right? So when you originally sit down with them, here's what they think. Am I being clear here, or am I being too weird?
No, it's making sense.
Good. So the first thing you have to decide when you're doing a deal, who are you dealing with, and you're gonna isolate it with one of these two things. Okay, one is the seller. Does he see this property as an asset, where he just wants to make the sale, get his profits in his greedy little hands, and run like hell?
Yep, it's a plus.
Right? Well, it's not even that it's a plus. It's just that he thinks he can get money from this deal, and that's what he's trying to do, for whatever reason.
Yeah.
Or he sees this deal as a liability. And a liability means that it's costing him money. Right? Him or her money. And time, it doesn't have to just be money either. It could be it's costing him time, it's costing him money, it's costing him time, it's costing him aggravation. It's like it keeps rubbing, it's like he keeps putting salt in this wound. Right? He's got this open wound and he keeps putting salt in it. Every month somebody pours salt in it. It's like, ow, that hurts.
Well, one of the first lessons I learned when the first few houses I went out with you, everybody thinks a house is an asset, like a good thing, a big positive, like it's worth all this money, it's a great thing, it's a piggy bank. But you talk to a few people and they start complaining about why they hate having it because of whatever reasons. Like, wait, they hate having a house?
Right.
Are you
Right.
kidding me? No wonder
Right.
people are motivated and sell. And until you see a few of those, you think people are like, yay, I have a house. It's like, crap, I have a house. Because they already have one, it's a second one, it's a third. It's a problem in there somewhere. And you'd be surprised, but it's a problem.
It's
a
aggravation. It's not even a problem. It's just aggravation. It's something they don't want. It's annoying. Okay? Now, if you wanted to be profound with this, if I'm not being profound enough, which I think I'm being too profound on a podcast, but if you wanted to be profound about this and you really wanted to get down deep with this, okay? Let's talk about pain.
Yeah.
Or not even, it's not even pain. Forget about that. I'm going to take that off the table. It's either you're running away from something or heading towards something. You ever hear that saying? Right? So it's like, I'm either, I'm trying to make money because I'm trying to run away from my bills.
Right.
Right? Or I'm trying to make money because I'm heading towards my goal. I want to be a millionaire. Right? So it's like which way are they? You look, and that's what we're talking about here. You either have your seller like running away from it, like trying to relieve themselves of it, or they're trying to head somewhere. Right?
Right.
Now, this is absolutely freaking vital. This, what I just explained to you, is the difference between a power negotiator and an amateur. Because this right here, if you talk to them correctly and use the questions that we've supplied to you, which you can get on flippinghousesforrookies.com, just download the Prospect Suspect form, and it's a 3-page document that has all this. It's for free. Okay? If you ask the right questions, you will figure out which one of these two he wants. So if you just think about what I just said to you, so he's running away from a problem, or he's heading to another direction, right? He's heading for a goal.
Right.
So just ask that question. And how do you ask that question? So on the guy that's trying to sell the house and get the asset, the question is just this simple. Let's role play it. So tell me that you want blah, blah, blah for your house.
I want $235 is my price for the house.
Is it the best you can do?
Well, I could do $225 maybe.
Okay. And if you didn't get $225, what would happen?
I can wait a little bit.
Okay. So $225 is the best you can do.
Yeah.
You're sure?
Well, for now, I mean, yeah. I mean, you're not the only guy. I can talk to somebody else, but right now that's my price, $225.
So if I don't give you the 225, you're walking away.
Yeah.
Okay. Let me ask you this question. When you decided you wanted to sell this house, you envisioned some number on a check that you walk away from the closing. What was that number?
I thought I could get something close to 200.
Okay. But here's the thing. Out of that 200, you owe money, right? So how much is the check? How much is the profit check you were expecting to walk away from this closing with?
Somewhere around 50.
Okay. What are you going to do with that money?
I was thinking of buying a condo.
Okay. There you go. End of story. That right there, that conversation we just had. First of all, was it hard, Peter?
No.
Okay. But think of the questions I just asked. They don't vary. These questions don't vary. The way I say them varies, but the answers do not vary. So if I'm going to do a deal with you, what am I going to talk about?
Well, two things. My qualifications and my motivation.
Right. So first of all, there's something that happened in that conversation I want to bring about. Because you told me your lowest price was 225, but when I asked you the question, what did you envision? You said 200. So I still have more negotiating room there.
Yeah, well, because the 225 was like if I sold it, with a realtor. I mean, I know I'm doing it myself, but
see what I mean?
I've had people tell me this on the phone. Well, if I sold it with a realtor, I know there'd be costs, so I could give it to you for 2 then.
Right. So my point is when you listen to the answers and you're not thinking about the next question, when you listen to the answer, first of all, I know I could buy this thing for 200, number one.
Yeah.
Number two, the only way I'm going to buy this property from you is to help you figure out how you're going to buy that condo.
Yeah. If he wants a condo and you help him figure out how to buy the condo, you made a happy person. The money almost doesn't matter as long as he doesn't feel he's being cheated. And if you help him optimize his money in some way or find a smart way to do it or find the condo for him, I don't know, you've done whatever you had to.
Money is an energy. It moves. It does not sit still. It's either coming or growing. It's either growing or shrinking. Okay? Money is an energy. It does not move. And if you don't believe me, just put money in a savings account without any intention for that money, and that's the month that your transmission on your car blows up or so the water heater in your house blows up or something like that, because it's got to move. It can't just sit there stagnant. All you got to do is say, oh, you know what? This money is my reserve money I'm saving up to buy a house. And then it'll park there because it knows it has a reason to be there. And it's going to generate that energy that will help you buy your house. It's weird.
Yeah.
Right? I didn't make up these rules. These are rules of the universe. So if you know what the intention of the energy is and the direction of that energy, now I'm really profound right now, but if you understand where that money is going to go, why not help that money get there?
Yeah. Well, you have to find out what the person's trying to do, where they're trying to put the energy, where they're trying to head to. That's what you're talking about.
Right. But you need to know that, like, give me your phone, let me see what your GPS says, where are you going? I mean, those questions that I just asked are just that.
Well, the weird thing about it in just regular real estate with realtors and just what people are used to, the easy way to sell a house, call somebody to do it for you, none of that happens. It's just numbers, so nobody thinks like this. You can't ask either, right? You're not supposed to ask.
Right, it's against their rules, yeah. So to your point, because that's next on my list here, is so mostly realtors deal with number one, the asset-minded seller. Okay? Mostly realtors deal with those people.
Yeah.
Okay. And the more deals you start doing, the more you realize that the realtor is trained to do that and knows nothing else other than get the money, give it to the seller so he can take his profit and go do whatever he wants to do with it.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
We look for the number 2 deals, which is the liability-minded seller. right? We're looking for the guy that's trying to get away from the property. It's a needle in a haystack sometimes, but he's there.
Yeah.
Okay, because 95% of the people are going to want to be asset-minded people. They want to get a profit.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, now, before we get to choosing the losers, because that's what we're here for, to win in real estate investing, let's talk about this. Okay, if you have listened to my live videos on LTV, loan-to-value ratios, right, or my unique way of making offers from the math of the deal, right, so figuring out which way to go from the math of the deal, you'll soon realize, knowing what the seller owes and what his profit is or his equity, because profit and equity are synonymous in real estate. Okay? Yeah. It makes your deal structuring become really easy, just what we were talking about. Right? So let's take your deal where you say you were asking 225 and then you went down to 200. Just give me a number of what you owe, Peter.
I owe 150.
Okay. So he's looking to make 50 grand. So just what we were talking about, he is going to negotiate general numbers, not specific numbers, general numbers, okay, so that he could get close to the 50 grand. He's guessing on the closing cost, doesn't know what the closing costs are going to be. He's just going higher so that he can get his number. Well, if I want 50 grand, then why not ask for 75? Then I know I'm sure to get my 50.
Right.
And if I get a little bit more, yay. Right?
Mm-hmm.
So if you listen to my loan to value ratios, which if you go to Flipping Houses for Rookies /free stuff and scroll down the bottom of the page, there's a video there. It's free. Okay. So always, always, in both situations, the seller's always motivated to get his profits. Okay? Which, by the way, Peter, if I'm paying $1,500 a month for a vacant house and it's coming out of my paycheck, is that a profit?
Don't sound like it, Bill.
It is. It is a profit. Well, because it's a negative profit, but it's a profit.
That seems to defy the definition. How do you mean that?
Yeah. So if I come along and I offer to make that $1,500 a month payment for him, he just made $1,500 profit, didn't he?
Oh, well, yeah, when you start paying him.
What's the definition of a profit?
Well, it's money left over after your bills, no?
Yeah, income minus expenses is profit.
Yeah.
Right? So if this guy's paying $1,500 a month out of his paycheck, right? Obviously, he can afford to pay $1,500 a month out of his paycheck, right?
Somehow.
So it's technically profit that he's having to pay something he doesn't want to pay for. So if he relieves himself of that $1,500 a month, it becomes profit again.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right?
Oh, yeah.
So when you're talking to this number two seller, which is like the guy that has a viewpoint that's a liability, it's costing him money, he's going to be a lot more motivated on doing a rent to own, because what problem is he trying to solve? To get his profit back. The profit from his job or his profit from somewhere else, so he doesn't have to pay this. I give you a classic example, okay? So I have two apartment buildings or two family houses that I'm beginning to wonder why I bought them. And I didn't even buy them. I'm on a lease option, and I've been seriously thinking about giving them back to the dude.
Yeah.
This week alone actually happened when I was in Florida, and I had to come back and fix it. I had my first floor tenant, who's a very good tenant, complaining about water, like rushing down the wall, like in his bedroom, like water through his closet, like really, it's annoying.
Wow.
Okay? Had to send a plumber in there, take the wall apart, put pipes in the wall, and then go upstairs and put a shower insert in because he went to caulk the tub and they're like the sheetrock behind the wall was all broken. So I had to take the insert out, put sheetrock there, and put a new insert in. Well, this whole process cost me about $2,000. Okay? Now here's my point. That $2,000 in those apartments will take me 2 or 3 months to pay it back. If I just had those apartments. Or that $2,000 will take away from my overall profit for the month. Right? Let's say my overall profit for the month is $4,000.
Yep.
It just took half my profit.
Sure.
Okay. So it took the point that I'm trying to make here is I have other, 14 other apartments or 14 other rents coming in that have to pay for that.
Yeah.
The profits are coming from the other 1,400, but it's costing me. I have to spend it on this. So in other words, I just can't take my profit and run because I have liabilities.
Bill,
so
it sounds like you're getting motivated.
You want to buy a couple of nice apartment buildings? No. Actually, I think, anyways, I've been spending money on these because I think eventually it will stop, but I think I'm close. All right. But you get my point. Okay?
Yep.
All right, good. So if you know what they owe, it makes a big difference. Let me give you an example, okay? Let's say we're going to do a subject to deal, which is getting the deed. That's where the seller gives you the deed, you take over their mortgage. Okay? Let's say that it's a $200,000 house. He owes $120,000 and he wants $20,000 to walk away. So because you know that, and because of the loan to value ratio, we know that he's below the 80% loan to value ratio, we can start with a subject to deal. Okay? So what you're going to do is you're going to tell the seller you'll take over the $120,000 mortgage. The $120,000 mortgage, okay? And you're going to take over those payments. So you don't have to go get a loan for that, right?
No, there's already a loan in place.
You're going to take it over, okay?
Yeah.
Then you're going to take the $20,000 and you're going to write a note for $20,000 for 5 years with a 5-year renewal period, right? With no interest and no payments. Right?
Yeah.
So when does the seller get the money, the $20,000? Well, when your buyer qualifies for a mortgage and comes to you and says, I'm ready to buy the house. So now you sell the house, we'll say for $200,000, you get your $50,000, the seller gets his $20,000, the bank gets their $120,000. Everybody gets paid off. We call it cashing out. Right?
Yeah.
You couldn't do that deal unless you knew those numbers. That's all my point is. So knowing what their equity is and talking about the equity is very important.
Right.
Okay?
And you have to explain that a lot on these podcasts because most people think the realtor and that whole system where a seller just asks for a number and he figures he's going to divvy that all up however it happens himself somewhere down the road. So it's just a number. But it breaks down. And when you find out, like you're saying, then you can work the number and help it and make some arrangements.
The assumption is the assumption is the seller knows what they're doing.
Yeah.
And that's the first mistake because you have to query everything because there's no book that they read on how to sell a house.
No, Bill, I never told you this, but I knew somebody near me around here selling a condo. I was trying to, on the phone, find this out. And he was so lost that it annoyed him and he wouldn't talk to me. I'm just trying to find out what he owed so I can help him with that. But no, I want my 180. Like, that's not my question. Like, what do you owe? I'm just, no. And he just was so lost, like, so unmotivated, like, so, like, not, bye-bye. And I just moved on because
so why would I talk about...
He had no clue.
Why would we talk about this on this podcast? Because if somebody doesn't tell you what they owe, they're a suspect. They're a loser. Do not continue with this person. This is not going to end good.
Yep.
Because their intention is to say as little as possible to make as much money as possible and not have a negotiating problem with you, because they feel like if they give you too much data, you'll trick them into selling for less money. So really, what's the problem here, Peter? It's the seller's confidence in his ability to negotiate and talk to people, because he's afraid he's too easy.
You know, it's weird you say that. I realized years ago that when somebody says they don't trust a car salesman, a salesperson, that I realized they don't trust themselves to maintain their own integrity in the conversation, to hold the line of what they want to do and not give in like an idiot. So it's themselves they don't trust.
And those people are usually influenced by too many other people. Just like they would be influenced by the salesperson, they have somebody at home that's authoring their life for them. You know, in other words, a wife that's telling him, "Why did you do that for?" You know, that's the author of his life. Yeah. She's writing his script, right? Because he's got to come home and check with her and make sure it's okay, so that there's no confrontation or some argument about it.
So he avoids those because he can't deal with it. So he just doesn't get into those because he can't maintain it. He doesn't have the integrity, the strength to say, "Nope, bye-bye."
And the truth of the matter is he's in a big fat maybe, because maybe yes, maybe no, and he lives a miserable life because of it.
Yeah.
Okay, so enough of that. Let's get out of the profound pool. What is a suspect anyways? Right? Bluntly, the only way I know how to do it, this is a seller with one and only one need for doing the deal. As much cash as he can get, as fast as he can get it, for his own selfish needs only. Right? So it's he's selling this house for only one reason: to get as much cash as he can get, as fast as he can get it, for his own selfish needs only.
That's too bad, because we can do fast cash, but it's not the big number. We can do the big number, but it's not fast. That's the terms deal. So those two things don't work. And
here's the thing. This is like someone is under the influence of hypnotism. Right? This seller never once gives it a thought of how much the buyer's going to, how this buyer is going to get the money. He doesn't give that any concern. He doesn't think about the buyer at all. He just thinks, what does he want, right? And most often doesn't consider the 10 to 20% closing costs. Or he overestimates them, like we talked about earlier. Right? Or the other thing he doesn't consider is that most people are going to go to the bank and get the money, and the bank has to qualify the value of the property. And they don't think about that.
You mean you just can't pick a number out of the blue and just ask for it?
Right. And recently with this pandemic thing going on, you know, a lot of my coaching clients are looking for sale by owners, which is, there's a lot less of them because people aren't able to sell because they got to live in their houses. They got to be quarantined, right? They can't just drift around and go to their sisters to live for a couple days, right? Or a couple weeks, right? So what happens is I lost my train of thought. Oh my God. Oh, so what's happening is I have coaching clients that are sending me deals that are $650,000 deals, $600,000 deals, and they're asking $900,000. And they're like, "Is this a deal? Let me do some special math for you." Oh, here's the answer. No. Like, you know, I mean, you can't penetrate greed.
Do you know if that has anything to do with current circumstances, or just that's just some individuals pulling that?
No, because what's happening right now is it's a supply and demand thing.
Oh, that's right.
So when there's less supply, then there's higher demand. So these people think that they can, because what's happening right now is the pretty houses in my area that are on the market, what happens is because there's not enough supply, when a decent house comes on the market, it's getting bidding wars, and they're selling between $5,000 and $15,000 above asking price. Now, $15,000 on a $200,000 house is a big number.
Yeah, that's pretty significant.
Okay, so that's what I find is happening. So these people are out poking around looking to get their money because they think it's a buyer. They think it's a seller's market.
Right, and there's always people, no matter what's happening, there are people with money buying things, buying houses. Not everybody's in trouble. My kid just leased a brand new car, you know. He's got money, still working, so he just, you know, the car dealer's probably happy. So business is still going, but it makes sense. So less on the market, higher demand, higher prices.
Right now,
Okay. Yeah.
So this seller that's being greedy, right? In the car business, we used to say pigs get fat, hogs get slaughtered. It's a gross saying, but it really clarifies what happens, right? So the seller doesn't realize how smart his buyer is right now. Okay? These sellers don't realize how smart they are. And what makes every seller smart? Mr. Google. The internet. Because you could go without even knowing what you're doing and find out how much he paid, how long ago, what his taxes are. I mean, you could get a lot of information just by Googling the property.
Yeah, Zillow
alone does it.
What the guy bought it for. And,
yeah. So he has no idea that that most buyers are going to go Google them. I can't tell you how many times, and this is not a lot, but I'll say a handful of times in my career that I had a property where I had somebody Google the property and they tell me that there's a sex offender living like 10 doors down and they don't want to be in the neighborhood.
Oh, wow.
I'm like, what? Okay. Because they Googled them.
Yeah.
Because they Googled the area. Now, obviously, that's a person that has some sort of a background and they have some sort of a fear, so they're specific about the fear, right? And they don't want to encounter that person, you know. But, I mean, you'd be surprised how many sex offenders are in society. Go look it up. You'd be surprised, right?
I don't want to look.
Right. All right, so you have to tell this seller why. So any seller you're talking to, you have to tell them why. Okay? So I'm sorry, I'm saying this wrong. So let me explain this and then I'll come back to the headline, right? So you can't make the seller's problems your problems unless you can make a profit from it. So if the seller's willing to pay you to solve his or her problem, then you have to do that. Okay? But if they're not willing to pay you, then don't make their problem your problem.
So they want to get all their money and then give you the problem. That doesn't sound like a proper arrangement there.
So when, just to your point, when you're negotiating, right? If they're willing, like for example, I'm trying to think of a deal that I just did recently. So, so I have a deal I was doing over in Middletown with a guy from the military, right?
Yeah.
So here's the deal. You went and looked at the house, right? If I was in Florida. So here's the deal. He seemed to be motivated in the beginning, right? But he's got a house that when he was over in Iraq, and he bought it online. You know, these military guys do stuff like this. And long story short, he paid $160,000 for the house and then came home and put $40,000 into it. So he's got $200,000 in. The house is worth $130,000, $135,000. Right? So he's asking $135,000. Now the realtor came along and said, well, I could probably get $150,000. So you found out when you were in the house, right?
Yeah.
But the realtor's not guaranteeing that number. The realtor's just saying, yeah, I think I can get 150. So that's the number that's in his head, right? So here's what happens with this deal. I got to pay 135. What's the house worth?
130.
Right? His payments are $1,350 a month. But what he did is he rented to his buddy and never changed the insurance policy, so it still has a homeowner's policy on it with his name on it. So which I find out in the conversation. So why is that a problem? Because if something happens to the house, the likelihood of the insurance company paying it is going to be pretty low. So you need to have renter's insurance, and the difference is $800 or $900 to $1,500. So my payment's not going to be $1,350; it's going to be probably $1,400 or more, $1,425. Okay.
Yep.
So what's his problem? His problem is he's got $200,000 in a house that he's going to take a $65,000 haircut for, right? So is he paying me for that problem? Is he paying me to take over that problem?
Doesn't sound like it.
Right? So what happens is I'm going to make $5,000, maybe $10,000, right? In the equity. Is there cash flow? $200 a month, maybe.
Maybe. Which, if anything happens, that's gone.
Which, by the way, it's a 2-bedroom house.
Yeah.
So I'm going to say something right now that if you are listening to this, you should, when I get done saying it, you should record, you should stop, rewind it, and listen to this 3 times. Okay? I'm going to talk about this a little bit later too, but I'm going to bring it up right now. You have to know when you're doing deal structuring what that added value you can bring to the table. If you don't have some idea of what the added value is, it's difficult for you to structure a deal, and it's difficult for you to be able to negotiate with your seller. So one of the things I use when I'm talking to a suspect or a prospect is, are they allowing me to add value to my buyer? In this particular case, the added value for my buyer is they can buy a property because he was willing to do a subject to deal with me. In other words, give me owner financing, right? Because he only owed $115. So he wanted $20,000 to walk away with.
Yep.
Or is that right? Yeah, $20,000.
Yeah, 135, 115, 20. Yeah.
Okay, so he wanted $20,000 to walk away with. And he was willing to let me put it in a note when we first talked. The problem I was struggling with is so the added value to my buyer is that they can get a house without bank qualifying. And I'll help them get qualified. But how much is my time worth? And how much is this deal worth?
Right.
So is the seller able to pay me, or is the buyer able to pay me that fee so that I could do this deal? And that's money now, money monthly, money later.
Yeah. Didn't sound like there's much of either of those.
So there's no money. So the money now, I mean, if I were to sell the house for $150, there's $15,000, and I take a $7,000 or $8,000 deposit, right? So that's money now. So I make $7,000 or $8,000. Okay, but then I'm on the hook for anything that happens, and if I'm only making $200 a month, which is $2,400 a year, I can't spend that whole $7,000. I got to put some of it away for reserves, because what happens if they don't pay?
One leaky closet, and you got $2,000.
Yeah, well, the tenants will supposed to repair that, but they don't always, right?
Yeah.
So, what if they don't pay for 3 months? What happens if there's a pandemic in the United States and they lose their job?
Oh, that never happens.
Yeah, right? So where's the money coming from? So here's my point. When you are talking to this person, you have to think these things in your mind, right? Which it sounds like it's complex, but it's not. But think to yourself, what added value can I bring to this table? Is my seller allowing me to do that? If not, he's a suspect.
Yeah. Well, if I were to play a hindsight being 20/20, this thing went off the rails when he bought it for 160 and it was only worth 130, 135. He should have got it for the 130. If he put some money in, that's fine. And he probably could have taken the 115 on the mortgage and left it at that. But it was too late. He's overspent. He's trying to kind of save a little face for himself.
He was willing to do all that, but in the end, here's what happens. He was so willing when I talked to him the first 2 or 3 times. I explained it to him. I told him what was going on. I told him we'll do a subject to or a lease option. And I explained both, right? He's like, I don't care. Whatever I got to do to get this thing off my hands.
Yeah.
I'm going to tell you what happened. It happens all the time.
Yeah.
There was a secret influence. He was talking to somebody, and they probably told him he shouldn't do this. Because when they flip like that, like a switch, something happened.
Do you ask when you run into that? Like in the conversation calls, I don't want to do it. Do you dig around and find out what happened? Or what do you do?
What I do is I once they make up their mind like that, if I can't shift them in a few minutes, 10 or 15 minutes, because they've already made up their mind. All you're going to do is piss them off.
Yeah.
So what I am going to do is, I don't know if I'm going to do it this week or next week. I'm going to call him because he's getting deployed in June.
So anyway, did he decide to just sell it with the realtor? Is that the plan?
Yeah. He's like, I don't want to wait for my money. I want to do it now. So I guess he's going to go to a realtor.
But that's not money now. It'll take him months to sell the house.
I don't know. And he's getting deployed to Iraq in June.
Yeah. He told me that too. Yeah.
Yeah.
Just curious. Doesn't make sense.
All right. So let me see here. Let me catch up to my notes.
Yeah, by the way, folks, while Bill's looking, if he sells a house for $150 with the realtor, guess how much he's actually getting?
Yeah.
$130?
Yeah. Probably.
And I told him that. Like, I didn't spend a half an hour explaining it, but I told him.
All right. So let's go back because I went off the rails. You can't make the seller's problems your problems unless you can profit from it. Now, I want to clarify this, and it's probably going to, we're pretty far into the show now. I think we're okay on time.
Yeah, we're about an hour.
Yeah. So if the seller has so much indebtedness on a property that assumption of the payments would lead to low or no cash flow, tell the seller plainly you can't do it. Okay? Now, what am I going to tell this guy when I call him back? Okay, so watch this. Unless they want to lease to you and reduce the amount of the monthly payments. Right? Example, seller has a $200,000 house with a $2,400 a month mortgage payment. That looks like it's not a deal, right?
Yeah, that's an awfully high mortgage, and somebody's not going to rent for like 26, 28. That's crazy on a $200,000 house.
$200,000 house, that's right. Because you probably can get as much as $1,800 or $1,900 a month.
Yep.
That would be, and the way we make the lease payments, we don't go to ontorentometer.com like so many people tell me that they do. No, what you do is you go to a mortgage calculator and you put in the current rates and you see how much a mortgage it is on a $200,000 house, and then you add $200 to it. You add the taxes, insurance, and the HOA fees or whatever, and you add $200 for you.
Yeah. Well, that's what you do if you owned it and you're paying the mortgage.
That's right.
You pay all
the
of
rental
that,
payment.
and then add $200.
The reason why you're adding $200 and you tell your buyer this is because you want them to pay too much money, so they're motivated to go get a mortgage and get a lower payment. It automatically puts incentive in there for them to do what they're supposed to do to go get a mortgage. Let me see. If I'm in a $200,000 house and the mortgage payment, if I go get a mortgage payment and it's going to be $1,900 and I'm paying the landlord $1,400, what do you think I'm going to do?
Yeah, right.
I'm going to run to the bank and raise my payment $500 a month? Right? No, I'm going to go as long as I can on that $1,400, right? But if I'm paying $1,900 and I can go to the bank and I can get my payments down to $1,500, what am I going to do? You see?
Sure. Sure.
It's self-inflicted motivation. Okay, that's what it is. All right. So now let's go back to the deal. Like $200,000, and they're paying $1,900 for a mortgage, right? Or $2,400 for a mortgage.
Yeah.
But you can only collect $1,900. So you promise to pay the seller $1,500, right? And then you go rent for the $1,900.
Yeah.
So you're making $400 a month, right? Which, by the way, that gives you about a 21% cash flow. So you want to be between 20 and 25%. So that puts you about 21% cash flow, right?
Yeah.
Your seller's happy because instead of paying out $2,400 a month, he's now only paying out $900 a month.
Not a perfect scenario, but who's the dumbass that wound up with a $2,400 monthly payment? Who's the dumbass? Sorry.
Right. Okay. So, which means that what you did is you extended his losses. Now, I'm not sure I can explain this correctly, but if he would have paid $2,400 a month times 12 months, that's $28,000, $880. 28,880. Okay? In 1 year. Okay? So he has to come up with that $28,000 in 1 year. But if he's only paying $900 a month, instead of taking that $28,000 loss over 12 months, he now takes it over 32 months. Right?
So it's cut down to $8,400 a year.
Yeah. Okay. So, like we were talking about before, if he's got a job or some other way to make income, that's profit somewhere else that he's using to relieve on this property.
Right. And you're talking about somebody that's in a situation that probably can't sell the house with a regular conventional realtor because of pricing or being over leveraged or whatever, something like that. And he needs to do something.
Yeah, whatever, yeah.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. And people can get, I've seen people with that, like a $2,000 condo payment per month. I think that one was a 15-year mortgage.
Yep.
You know, they thought they paid down fast, but they didn't. They moved, and they leave it hanging there. So
most often when I run into those deals, it's not an over-leveraged property. In other words, the bank didn't overpay, although that does happen when markets crash, right? Because the new appraisal is, the old appraisals with an older market, and the market changed, and they're stuck in a new market with an old appraisal, okay? Or, ironically enough, it's just what you say. They go and they take a 15-year mortgage because some mortgage guy talked them into it, and they could afford it at the time, and it elevated their payment, and now they're in a position where they can't refinance it, and they're stuck with the payment.
I talked to a mortgage guy last couple of days, and you can never take a 15-year mortgage and stretch it out to 30. But you can always take a 30-year mortgage, pay more on it because you have some extra money, and shorten it down to 25 years or 20. You can always do that.
Well,
but
don't go
the other way. You can't undo it.
What my advice is to do just what you said. You take a 30-year mortgage, and then you make a 15-year mortgage payment.
Yeah.
So you pay it off in 15 years.
Yep.
So this way here, if you get in trouble, you can always go back to the other number. Right?
Yeah, if you got the money, you pay it down, and your principal's down, you pay it off earlier, and they keep track. You don't lose it. But you don't have to.
Let's start winding down with talking about pre-screening your sellers.
Okay.
Okay, so these are all in the name of, this is all in the name of finding the losers. Okay? This, as I've said before, is the most important part of your career. Pre-screening your sellers. Now listen to me. Listen to me. Please, please, please listen to me. This is one of those things where it cost me a lot of money to figure out, and it sounds too simple, so simple that you'll dismiss it because it's too simple. Okay? The ability to tell the difference between a deal dud and a deal blockbuster that will make you a winner is absolutely the difference between success and failure. Some investors, like we talked about before, some investors spend their time driving around looking for dozens and dozens of properties. not only is that a gross waste of time, but it's downright stupid. Yup, I said it.
Don't hold back, Bill.
Stupid. I found if you spend a little time with getting the predetermined mind or the of the seller, or just asking some predetermined questions to the seller, right? You'll weed out the suspects quickly. Right?
Yep.
And really what I'm talking about here, really this is probably something you've never heard me say, because you just haven't heard me say it, right? And when I mean a suspect here, I'm talking about someone you can't rely on to do a deal with. So why would you keep working with that person if you can't rely on them to do a deal? So you're not catching the telltale signs of the seller. Like, what are their intentions? You know, so I'm going to tell you very easily and bluntly how to do this, but I'm going to also tell you that I'm going to tell you, you're going to be like, oh my God, that makes total sense. But to do it in everyday practice is not as easy as it sounds. Look, don't listen. Don't listen to what they're telling you. Watch their actions. This works for everything in life, by the way. I taught this to my teenage kids about boys. And I really do believe that my kids are in healthy relationships and they're living good lives because of that. You know? Look, don't listen. If the boy tells you he's going to pick you up at 2 o'clock and take you for ice cream and he doesn't do it, that's a telltale.
Yeah.
Because in my world, the way you do something is the way you do everything. Right? Look, don't listen. If you think you have a suspect and you're not as qualified as you and I are on weeding out suspects, then give your suspect some sort of a task and see if they do it. In other words, how do you trust somebody? If their words match their actions, then you can trust them.
Yep.
So in this particular case, you're going to ask some questions, right, to pre-qualify them to see if their words match their actions. And if they talk enough, they'll tell you all. They'll always tell you. They'll tell you all. If you talk enough to somebody, they'll tell you all.
You know, if you listen long enough, they say all these things. They'll tell you numbers, and then they'll tell you a different number later. Then you tell who owns the house, and no, she really doesn't own the house, and my sister has it. No, we both have it. And all. Even just the words as actions,
Yes.
you know, they contradict. You know, and then if you follow up with actual actions to see who's on the deed and the names, you don't even get that far. They keep changing their mind. Like, oh, that's...
So let's give an example of that. So when you call up, they say their name is on the deed.
Yeah.
15 minutes into the call, they say, well, my father actually has his name on the deed. Or it's not even like that. It's like, yeah, when my mom died, my father went to probate and got the house. Oh, is his name on the deed? Oh, yeah. So you have two facts now. You have the fact where they said their name is on the deed, and now they just told you his name's on the deed. Both those facts can't be true.
Nope.
Unless both their names are on the deed. Then it could be true. But the point is what you're saying about contrary facts is you have two facts that have the appearancy of being correct, but they contradict. They can't be correct. One has to be wrong and the other one has to be right. Or both could be wrong.
Yeah, and when that comes up, do you query it right away or just take a mental note and like 2 minutes later bring it up?
No, I
it?
jump on it with both feet and I'm like relentless. Because that door opens that they're lying to me. They just went from a trusted, wanted guest to a pest. Opposite, absolute. Well, wait a minute. You just told me a few minutes ago your name was on the deed. Now you're telling me your father's name is on the deed. Which is it? Because I can't proceed with this deal. I'm not giving you 5 more minutes of my time until we sort this out.
Yeah.
right?
Okay.
So what you need to realize is that very many investors do not have the confidence and the stability that when they're talking to a seller that they have a lot of data. They've spent a lot of time listening to podcasts like this and reading books and learning how to do this. They're a lot smarter than their seller. And they don't have the confidence like either you straighten out or I'm cutting my communication with you and you lose because I can help you.
Yeah. That's the better attitude.
And not a lot. And I'm not talking about being cocky or being rude.
It's pretty mutual, really. You're supposed to be helping each other.
Right. So we, meaning people like you and I, and how many times have you heard me say this to you? The seller's lucky to have somebody like me sit in their house. Yeah. They're lucky. It's a fortunate thing. It's a needle in a haystack for them. Minimally, just to hear me talk about their specific deal and help them get ideas and things that they could do to sell this house.
Yeah, even if you don't buy them, they thank you a lot just for explaining things and like,
right.
Gee, I didn't know that. Gee, wow, how come nobody told me that before? And they're mad sometimes about things you find out.
Right.
They find out that no one else ever told them. And they're not mad at us because we explained it finally, and they're happy.
So the investor has to take the stance like, you just lied to me. I'm the hell out of here. Bye. We're not playing this game. Not, let's not be like this goddamn governor we got in Connecticut, Mr. Liberal himself, and make everybody happy. I just heard on the news this morning, I was at the smoke shop last night, first time in a while, right? And they're telling me, the governor's happy about opening the state up. Well, first of all, the guys in the smoke shop, half of them are liberal bastards anyways, right? And they're like, we're going to open the state up. No, that's not what he's going to do, because I heard this morning, now I got to go on the internet because I have contrary facts. And I got to figure it out. He says that he doesn't want to open restaurants until June 20th. June 20th, no restaurants.
Not yet, not inside.
You know why?
Can't go in.
Because he's a spineless son of a bitch that he wants to make everybody agree. We got to have this group agreement. Bullshit. Make a decision. Okay? Let me know. Let me tell you how I feel, Peter.
Don't hold back, Bill.
Okay? So you can't make group agreements. Somebody's got to take charge and make a decision. At the end of the day, one person's going to make a decision. That's you. You have to make a decision on how the greatest good is for this deal. What's the greatest good for the client? What's the greatest good for the buyer? What's the greatest good for you? What's the greatest good for the lien holders, for the tax man, for the insurance man, for the environment, for the neighbors? This is not some light little decision you're making here. There's a lot of people involved with this property.
Yep.
Somebody has to make a decision, and you're the most trained person in the room. Act that way. Stop trying to have a committee down at the church, because that ain't getting you nowhere. Okay? We're not voting on things. This is not the way it works. And if you want to run your life that way, you're not going to make money. I'm sorry. And if you want to check it out, just go find any blue state and read about what's going on in that blue state. Because that's what blue states do, is they have committees. And they don't work. So there you go. And I'm not even saying I'm a Republican, but I'm just telling you that blue states don't work. That part I know. Because I live in one. We live in one. Yeah. It sucks. And I'm looking to get the hell out.
No, there's some great reports out there, like how much they owe and how much they're behind billions in debt with unions, and just the statistics from state to state. Then you see how they're run and what party it is, or just the approach, and you see what works and what doesn't work. So we shouldn't vote on promises. We should just vote on results and how things have worked and what has been done.
Statistics, not bias and rumor. Statistics, actual statistics, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so you're on the phone with the seller. So how should you be able to determine the seller's intention? Right? Because I'm kind of giving you all this theory, so let's reel it back into like some real time shit, right?
Yep.
Are they looking for a big payday? Or do they want relief from the whole situation of the property? You should be able to determine that in the first 5 or 10 minutes of every conversation. And if you don't go into the conversation with that mindset, are they looking for a big payday or are they looking for relief from the property? Right?
Yep. So would it be safe to say, just on all the things you've been talking about, that one of the questions is how much they want and how long they can wait? Because like you say, they want a lot of cash, they want it all now.
Yeah.
Or they want a lot of cash, but they don't mind waiting. Or they don't need a lot of cash, but they got to move fast. Is it like those two variables, the cash and the timing, that you can have like several scenarios
indicator.
balancing those two things?
It's an indicator. Absolutely one of the main indicators.
Yeah, because we can do fast cash, but not too much. We can do more cash if you
Well, we
wait.
could do fast cash if we do a discount.
That's what I mean. It's a discount. If you want, and anything's like that. If you want something fast, you got to pay for the speed.
Right.
You got to pay for it. If you're willing to wait, I'll give you a little bit more. It's just real life. But when they want a lot and they want it now, it's not likely. They might get lucky, but not likely.
Right.
And not us.
So, by the way, the largest reason you would pre-screen is so you don't break one of my main rules in real estate. And if you don't have this rule, I would prefer you have it after today. So once you hear it from me right now, this should be number one in your life, in your real estate life. Never buy or take control of a property unless you can get free equity or significant monthly cash flow from the day you close or take over the property.
Yeah.
Sorry.
So you don't buy a bad deal today because someday it might be a good deal?
We do not swear around here. And number one swear word in Bill Hawthorne's life is appreciation.
Yeah.
We don't use it. We get it as a side effect. That's totally fine. Never once in 200 podcasts have you heard me talk about appreciation.
No.
I'm going to repeat it. Never buy or take control of a property unless you can get free equity or significant monthly cash flow from the deal you close the minute you close or take over the property.
Yep.
So, Peter, wouldn't it make sense that the next statement, which is not written down here, I can show it to you, it's not written down here, okay? Wouldn't it make sense that we plug in here the other rule that goes along with this? What's the only way that you could not lose money in real estate?
Ooh, I know that one.
What is it?
Don't put money in it.
Right? So, if you put $100 into a deal, a lease option or a slot deal, right? And you make $400 a month, would you or would you not say that's infinity returns?
That's what they call it. Google. Google is like the biggest number in the world.
Yeah.
It's bigger than infinity. I don't know. But yeah, sure.
There's bigger numbers, but Google is, yeah, they spell it different, but Google is a number with a lot of zeros.
Yeah.
It's like
so that's the
100
answer to
billion
people
or
that are
something
afraid.
like that.
What?
It's like 100 billion or something like that.
Oh, I don't know. We'll find out later. Go Google it. But, people that are afraid to do real estate because they might lose money, well, don't put money in. But how do you do that? Well, I mean, I've started businesses with $20. I've started business with a poster on a wall someplace. You don't have to have money to work. You work, and then you make money. Duh.
Right.
Duh.
So, Peter, before I kind of start ending off here, I have another thing I want to say here. But before I do that, I would like for you to explain to our audience what an axiom is.
An axiom is a self-evident truth. It's something that's so obvious, you don't have to explain it to people. You point it out and they go, oh, yeah, I see that. That's obvious.
And we have a lot of laws, natural laws that are axioms, right?
Yeah, gravity, although it took Isaac Newton to see an apple fall to write it down officially, but everybody knew that there's such a thing as gravity.
So do you know what gravity really is?
Yeah, it's really not that things fall. It's the attraction of things to each other. Like if you take a bowl of chicken soup and you pour some black pepper in it, it'll flow to the sides.
Right. Wow, I never heard that before.
I've seen it. Hey, today people are going to be getting chicken soup and black pepper and checking it.
Gravity is really, I just read about this just recently because I have this tape that I was listening to on the way back from Florida that was a really odd tape that I bought. But it's really the amount of pressure that, like if you had an apple in your hand, right?
Yeah.
You measure gravity by the amount of pressure to hold the apple up.
Yeah.
Not that it's falling, but how much pressure did your hand have to hold it up?
Yeah, that's what you can measure the gravity. Because it would change on the moon, on Mars, on Saturn. Right. We can't get there yet. Yeah,
that's what Isaac Newton did, is he came up with that formula.
Yeah, cool.
Right? All right, so I feel like in this podcast alone, I have given some significant axioms, like little minor laws, that if you listen to what I'm telling you and you start doing deals, you're going to realize, 10 deals on the road, 100. It's like the more deals you do, the more you're going to realize that these axioms I'm giving you are what you should live by.
Yeah.
These are like your bumpers for your bumper cars, right?
Yeah.
These are like the velvet ropes to get into the nightclub at night. You know what I mean? You don't get out of the velvet rope, otherwise you don't get into the nightclub.
Yeah, okay? I think of it this way. As you're going through life, there's a lot of things you don't know. You're uneducated about things, you're young, or you just don't know about things. Why would you not listen to people who have succeeded and just follow the steps?
Right.
And not think them, not be smarter than them, just follow the damn steps. If they don't work, go home. But you'll find if there really are steps from successful people, they will work if you use them.
At least use them enough to get you going and make your own decision. Because I don't want to get into this now, but I've been really I've been reading some stuff lately, and what I've had this new realization about education.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's because if you have an authority like me that's telling you that something is true, and you take that datum as being true, you're being lazy.
Yep.
What you need to do is you need to trust somebody, me, you, your mother, whoever, and go investigate that datum and see if it's the same for you.
I got something in my wall right over there. It says nothing is true for you unless you have observed it yourself.
Right. So what we try to do is get people to, my saying is the only way you're going to really learn something is to do it.
Yep.
And that's the reason why, because you're investigating the datum. And the reason why I have done so good on the internet and what I do is because these things, when I tell them to you, my coaching clients come back and say, when I first heard you say that, but oh my God, it's so true. Yeah. And it's like, yeah. Right? So here's another one of those datums.
Good.
You ready?
Yep.
This has everything to do, if you could write this datum down and actually fully understand it and live by it and make your entire pre-screening around this one thing, you will make a lot of money and save a lot of aggravation. Ready?
Yes, sir.
Sellers who need to sell will make you rich. Sellers who want to sell will make you old and tired, plus eventually put you out of the real estate investing business. Always, 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 no exception. Sellers who need to sell will make you rich. Sellers who want to sell will make you old and tired and kill your dreams. They'll suck the blood out of you. It's a big difference between need and want. That's the difference between 1 and 2. The seller that is number 1 that wants an asset, he wants it. The seller that's in number 2 that has a liability, he needs it. And when the quicker you could distinguish that, the quicker you'll find your losers, which, by the way, the only way you're going to get to a winner is by sifting through all the losers, right? It's the only way you're going to find them, right? And I know that we're way into the podcast now. We're probably way over, but I couldn't resist this last part. Okay, so I'm going to just buzz through this so we can get over it, but I couldn't resist this. All right?
Okay.
In final, here's an underground secret that cost me hundreds of thousands of dollars to learn and years. It literally cost me, and it's one of those things where it's so simple you'll dismiss it. It's too simplistic. But the good guys that listen will get it and will save the money too, and do deals. Who do you attract? That's the secret. Who do you attract? Right? Much like flies are attracted to honey, you should not make this a mistake unless you want flies. Right?
Yeah.
Or you want the flies to go away because they're annoying you. So in that case, you have to put the honey on a sticky piece of paper and remove the flies from the room.
Yep.
Your marketing is the same way. Okay? Let me explain how this will help you weed out the losers and save you a shit ton of time. And possibly your career, never mind your personal sanity. I'm telling you, Peter, this took me hundreds of thousands of dollars to learn. And I still have to roll back in my mind. I just was regrouping. I had a conversation, which we need to talk about later, about some virtual assistant guy that I'm hiring and how I'm going to get some more deals in because I'm going to hire another VA. And this is important. Okay?
Okay.
If you have no money, no capital, or credit to get money, don't go looking for or attract or put your marketing out for foreclosures, bank-owned REOs, or rehab deals. You're just stressing yourself out. Why attract those flies? What are you going to do with them?
Mm-hmm.
Right?
That's right.
Now, if you have, say, 10 grand or 20 grand or 30 grand, and I don't mean in the bank, but you got it in a credit line or some credit cards, or your mother will lend it to you, or your cousin will sell you his car, or whatever. If you could easily put your hands on 10 grand, 20 grand, 30 grand or more, we'll say anything less than 100,000, because in most places 100,000 can't buy a house, but it's a percentage of whatever houses are going for in your neighborhood, right? So if you're buying $80,000 houses and you could put your hands on 5 or 10 grand, this is the same thing. Okay, it's a percentage of. Why not, if you had that money, we'll say 10 grand or 20 grand or a little bit more, go look for subject to deals. Right?
Sure.
And how do you find subject to deals? Well, go look for divorced people, out of area owners, expired listings. Right? What are you attracting?
Would be people that be more likely to have mortgages that might want to sell the house.
Right? Another list you can buy is an equity list. So somebody that only has 10 or 15% worth of equity, go attract those people. Because the first question, if you buy a list that they have 20% worth of equity, the first question you can ask every single person on that list is, would you be willing to sell the house for what you owe on it?
Yeah, 'cause that's the loan to value ratio level for subject to. 80%.
Right? So you go to listsource.com or melissadata.com and you buy a list from one of those people. It costs you, $40-$50 for a couple thousand names. You send them yellow letters. First question you're going to ask them is do you own the house? Is your name on the deed? And would you be willing to sell the house for what you owe on it? You could ask every person on that list that question. Right?
Yep.
Now, if you have no cash or available resources to go out and get money, okay, like no money, like you can't get $1,000, okay, which is bullshit because I can find anybody, you give anybody to me and I can find, they know somebody that has money, I can find them. But that's here nor there, okay? Why not attract deals that you can do sandwich lease options or rent-to-owns with? Right? Here, you need a little bit of money, like $100 to do a deal. You don't need any closings, right? You do them all yourself. And you make money now, and they're pretty, so you don't do any rehabs, right? You make money now, money monthly, money later, right? So we usually find these type of sellers by contacting or by texting or calling for sale by owners.
Yep.
My point is that you can weed out a vast majority of suspects or losers by talking to the right crowd when you first start your deal hunting marketing campaign. And you would think that a marketing guy would know that. But I'm telling you, I spent hundreds of thousands of dollars to realize. Fortunate for you guys, because that forced me to come up with the 7-deal strategy. Because we were spending way too much money. It's like the difference between, and this is a Dan Kennedyism, right? Dan Kennedy taught this to me. So the late, great Dan Kennedy, I don't think he's still alive anymore, to be honest with you. If you're gonna advertise for weight loss, right?
Yeah.
And you go down to the local newspaper and they got a 50,000 distribution, and you put an ad in the newspaper that says weight loss, right? You're advertising to a bunch of people that may not want weight loss. It's the general public. Or I can spend the same amount of money and put an ad for weight loss in a stewardess magazine, an airplane stewardess magazine, right? Because they want to look good, right? Or a magazine for models, right? The models would read, okay? And my conversion rate, now even though my distribution in one of the magazines is maybe we'll say 5,000 instead of 50,000, my conversion rate in that magazine will be a lot higher because I'm talking to the right people.
Right.
60% of you making real estate deals is who are you attracting? 20% is your message, and the other 20% is how you deliver it. 60% is who you're talking to. So be clever on who you're actually talking to or promoting to. Mm-hmm. Just like I gave you some examples here, it would only make sense that the other thing is with for sale by owners, I mean, for lease options, you can go on to rental sites. People that have properties for rent. Why not go there and look for the deals? They're already renting. Right? They call, I was looking for this the other day. I got to ask one of my coaching clients where he found it. Actually, it's on a website. I just can't remember the name of it. It's called an FBOR. FBOR. It's a for sale by...
FRBO? No, FRBO?
Oh,
for rent by
FRBO.
owner? FRBO, right?
Oh, for rent by owner. That's probably the reason why I couldn't find it. Let me write that down. FR... So tell us what that is.
It's for rent by owner. You have somebody who owns a house and they're renting it.
Right.
Like instead of for sale by owner, it's for rent by owner.
Right. Point is if they're already trying to rent it, why not call them up and say, hey, I see you have 123 Main Street for sale. Would you be willing to do a rent to own on it?
Or they have it for rent.
Right. So you call them up because they have it for rent, and you say the first question is, would you be willing to do a rent to own on it?
Yeah. Would you rent it for a while, then sell it later?
So that's my exact point. Isn't that a much more specific audience
Yeah.
that you would have less suspects and more prospects in?
So you're saying right now we have less for sale by owners on the market. Any idea if there's less or more for rent by owners?
No, because that's why I was looking for it the other day, and obviously I was doing it wrong, so I have to go figure that out. Okay? So here's what I want to do to end off. Watch and match your financial situation with the type of deals that you can attract. And you'll find things will go a lot easier for you. Okay? Focus on the few. This is another axiom. Focus on the few, not the many, so you can keep your motivation and sanity. So focus on the few, not the many. In other words, so focus on the few, not the many, right? Keep your motivation and sanity. After all, you only need one deal. So focus on that and how much money you'll make with that one deal. Don't try to be the end-all, be-all for everybody. That's one of the troubles I have with my coaching, with my style of teaching, right? Is that you give me any deal, I'll give you 3 offers. In most cases.
Yeah.
So new people come in and they think, oh, well, we got to give 3 offers or we got to do whatever. And it's like, no, focus on the few. See, what's happening is going back to the beginning of the show, that's the objectiveness of it. Like they're just talking about money. They're not talking about the subjective part of the deal. What is the guy's intention? Does he think it's an asset or does he think it's a liability? Mm-hmm. Does he want to sell or does he need to sell? See? And when you start thinking with those couple of questions, what will happen is you'll soon be able to weed out the losers quickly and keep the few that will make you money. Because 95% of them are going to be losers. 95% of them are going to want to sell. They're not going to need to sell. Make sense?
Yeah, so we can just ask them, hey, do you want to sell your house or do you have to? Can we just ask them?
I don't care. If it works, go for it. Right?
So would you say you want to sell your house or do you feel like you actually need to sell your house?
Right. So you want to stay away from the blood-sucking prospects who are looking to make a deal his way and only his way. Or her way and only her way.
Yeah.
He will kill your mindset. He will kill your dreams. He will kill your career. You'll keel over dead, I promise. I've seen it happen way too many times.
So you'll think you have a prospect, but he's a suspect.
The only reason why this business is not working for anybody listening to me right now is because they're talking to too many suspects, not enough prospects. They do not know how to weed out the losers and keep the winners. That's it.
Yeah.
No other reason. It's not money. It's not credit. It's not market. It's not environment. It's not all these stories that people are telling me. It's that and only that. They're not talking to enough prospects, and that's it. Because honestly, Peter, even if you talk to enough prospects and you don't know how to structure a deal, sooner or later, low-hanging fruit's going to come by, and that guy that is completely willing to just throw the house at you will show up. And you don't have to know crap with that guy. Just be in the right place at the right time, and he'll give you the house. You don't need to have an education. You don't need to know how to do deal structuring. You just need to talk to enough people to find that guy. Maybe it's 100 to 1. Maybe it's 50 to 1. Maybe it's 20 to 1. Maybe it's 5 to 1. Mm-hmm. The only difference between those numbers, 101 and 5 to 1, is your ability to be able to weed out and understand and pre-qualify, just like what we talked about on this entire podcast. That's the only, your education to do that is the only difference between how many people you have to talk to. And the more practice you get, and the more people you talk to, and the better you get at it, the less people you'll have to talk to find deals. because you'll pre-qualify them. Now, I'm not going to go over it today, and maybe we'll do some other way, but in my marketing, I've learned a lot from Dan Kennedy on how to actually weed out prospects and suspects through your marketing. You know, like they call a voicemail and they push 1 or 2, and it tells right away whether they're a prospect or suspect. Because you say, which one are you? And you say, push 1 if you're this and 2 if you're that. I mean,
push 1 if you want to sell your house.
Right.
Push 2 if you need to sell your house.
That's right. Which, by the way, what's the question you would ask to figure that out? I should have added this in. I forgot about this.
I'm not sure because whatever I come up with won't be what you're thinking.
Go ahead. No, go ahead. I want to hear what you have to say.
I'm not sure.
Okay.
What's the question for that one?
Right. When did you?
I would ask when did you decide to sell the house and what happened?
Right.
Just to find out what made them want to do it.
Question I would use is when did you want to move by?
Oh yeah.
Right. Now if it's owner occupied. If it's not owner occupied, they got tenants in there. When did you want to sell by? When did you want to close by?
Yeah. Because they could say, oh, maybe next Christmas or next year, and so that's not good. If they go, 30 days.
It's thousands and thousands of questions, or hundreds of questions in thousands of homes to figure that out. So at the end of the day, if you want to find out if they want to sell or if they need to sell, the question to ask is, when did you want to move by?
Yeah.
So if it's April 15th and it's tax day and he needs his tax money and he says, I need to be out by the end of the month, I don't give a goddamn what you're doing. You drop everything you're doing. You hang up the phone. In fact, you don't even hang up the phone. You tell the guy, I'm getting in my car. Can you give me directions and keep him on the phone with you and get to his house? Because that's the one deal you want to work on.
Yeah, who can do that? What realtor could do that? We'll sell it in 3 weeks. Who can do that?
Right.
Nope. It's
nobody. It's April 15th and they tell you, when do you want to move by? Oh, well, I was thinking my daughter wants to graduate in the school we're here, so I want to wait till at least after graduation, which is in June.
Yeah.
Does she want to sell or does she need to sell? That question will tell you. Okay? All right. So we're done. So if you want to learn more about this stuff we're talking about, and if you want to see me make this really easy for you, you can go to flippinghousesforrookies.com, flippinghousesforrookies.com/deal hunting. I have this little mini course that's really easy to follow that we've sold many of them for $97. And because of this podcast, I reduced it down to $17, Peter. But it's got a time delay on it. So if you're listening to this, you got to go there and do it quick. Oh, man. Have another cigar, Bill. So it's flippinghousesforrookies.com/deal hunting. Okay. Also, if you're listening to us on a podcast service, please go to whatever podcast service it is. Hopefully it's iTunes, and subscribe so you know when we're on air and we're sending you this podcast. Or if you're on YouTube or you're on Facebook, please like our page or like our videos. In final, I feel like I pour my guts out in these. It takes a lot of time for me to put these together. A lot of information that I'm giving for free that a lot of other people would definitely charge for. Please go give us a review. If you don't know how to do that, just go to flippinghousesforrookies.com. Scroll down the page. The podcast is in the middle of the page, and right underneath, it's got all the episodes on there you can listen to. And right below that, you can put, please give me a review. You click on that, and it'll bring you right to the page. Okay? So please go give us a review so we can see what you think and make changes, because that's how we got into where we are now, Peter, right? Is by listening to what people have to say about the podcast, and we make adjustments because it's just you and I. There's not a big corporation here that has to make big decisions. Okay? So thank you for staying with us so long today. I think it was an hour and 40 minutes, but I think we covered a lot of good stuff, and I'm really happy to have all the downloads that I have. I really appreciate the listeners, and I really appreciate the opportunity for you guys to listen to me rant on, especially when I go on about the damn liberal government we have in Connecticut, and you guys put up with that. So,
will we ever learn?
It's a good thing Jessie, my oldest daughter, doesn't listen to this, because I'd have to listen to her next. Tell me I can't do that on a podcast. So, all right, guys. So, again, thanks for being here. We're over and out. We'll talk to you next week.
Thanks for tuning in to the hottest real estate topics on the planet with Bill and Pete. If you want to continue learning how to buy and sell real estate without money or credit, head over to flippinghouses.club for some cutting-edge real estate wealth tools. Or contact us at info@flippinghouses.club.